What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be doing a competitive analysis of Aegislash for Pokemon Sword and Shield. Since he's the Sword and Shield Pokemon, I felt like it was a little bit on topic for this, even though it's not a new Pokemon, but he's here. And he's a Steel Ghost Pokemon that is insanely good, always been relevant in games that he's allowed in. And he was actually moved into Ubers in the past because of how strong he is, how good of a Pokemon he is. So one of the things that makes him so good is his ability here. It's going to be stance change, which is really, really good because it gives him two forms. So this Pokemon can really be really versatile and do a whole lot. So first off, whenever you use a attack move, any attacking move, he goes into Blade form that changes his stats to make him 140 attack and 140 special attack, which is a really, really high stat for attacking. So he can dish out really, really big damage, and then he comes out, and he can also turn into Shield form when he uses the move King Shield. So and King Shield is also just a very good move in general. It is Protect, but then also if your opponent makes physical contact with the Protect that turn, then it lowers their attack stat by 1, which is really, really good. Essentially intimidating that Pokemon. And when it's in its Shield form, you also have 140 defense and 140 special defense. So it's really, really bulky. Not to mention it comes out in Shield form. I don't know if I mentioned that. But that's like pretty big because it comes out and is going to take very, very little damage. So I have a couple of builds here. The first build is going to be a leftover set. It's going to be a pretty bulky set, running a couple of coverage moves. So we're going to start it off, obviously King Shield. That is the Pokemon's gimmick. It's really good. Shadow Ball is going to be our main sweeping main attack. Shadow Ball is an 80 power ghost move. It's really good. Special attack. We have Shadow Sneak as well. Shadow Sneak has priority, so it'll go first over any regular moves. Won't go before Protect or switching out, but it's still really powerful. Not a lot of power on that one. It's just going to be like finishing. And then for our last one, I picked Sacred Sword as this spot. We are especially attacking invested, so I don't know if Sacred Sword is actually the best move. You can replace it with Flash Cannon potentially, or potentially Pursuit. Depending on how the meta shapes up, Pursuit may be really good to trap psychic guys. If a foe is about to switch out, then it gets into really big damage, and it's a dark. Not going to be stabbed because we're Steel Ghost, but it's still really good. So that's another reason I was talking about Flash Cannon is it will be stab, which is really good. If you don't know what that is, it's same type attacking bonus, which since it's a steel move, we're steel, it deals out pretty good damage. It's going to be, I think, 1.5 damage, I believe, or it might be 2, but I think it's 1.5. And but yeah, that's why. But the main reason I picked Sacred Sword on this build is it's for coverage, but it's mostly for one of the problem guys that we have. Sneak peeked there for a second, but we'll go on that later. Just a little bit. Those are just a couple of threats that we know are in the game. But for now, I'm going to keep going over this build. It's going to be a 6 IV. You're going to want to breed for a 6 IV since it has both physical and special attacking type attacks on its moveset here. I guess you could switch out these, but I really like Shadow Sneak, and Sacred Sword is subject to change, but I think Sacred Sword is a really good bet for right now. Anyway, into our EVs, we invested 252, so max EVs for HP and for special attack, and then we just put the leftovers into defense just for a little bit extra bulk. But we want him to be able to dish out pretty good damage and be as bulky as possible, and this is the way that we did that. We made his nature quiet just to give it more special attack, so that his Shadow Ball can dish out more attack, and then minus speed since we don't really care to go first. Like, we don't need that more than anything else, really. So, like, we'd rather be bulky as possible, and dish out as much damage as possible as well. So one of the main usages of Aegislash is to come in, not be a starter Pokemon. It's going to be in the back of your team. This is a double strat, or like I'm talking about four doubles, because that's what I play. VGC doubles, and Aegislash is really good when you expect an attack that he'll resist. Just switch out your Pokemon, bring in him. He's going to resist it, and huge bulk. He comes in shield form, so it's going to be huge, take almost no damage or very little damage, and then be able to dish out a pretty strong attack. Shadow Ball, Shadow Sneak, Sacred Sword. If your opponent's about dead, you can Shadow Sneak and just kill it instantly. But other than that, you want him to come in. Say your opponent has out like a Snorlax or something, like a belly drummed, very big trick roomed Snorlax or something. You can come in with Aegislash. It's gonna attack with Return or something. It resists it. It actually like is unaffected by that move, but it'll resist it. And then that's another reason that Sacred Sword I picked on this, because Sacred Sword can actually do really good damage to that. It'll go back to 148 attack when it switches into Blade form, and then Sacred Sword can dish out huge damage. This is also for Bisharp. Those are really the two main Pokemon that I had in mind putting Sacred Sword in over Flash Cannon. But yeah, that's for the first build. The second build is another leftover set, but it's a little bit different. Overall, it's the same. We have the same investments. We put the 4, instead of in defense, we put it in special defense, but that doesn't really matter. We also made it modest, so that it can dish out big damage with Shadow Ball still, but instead of making it minus speed, we made it minus attack, so it can still win speed ties with other Aegislashes. And just in general, want to keep it as speedy as possible, because why not? You know, we have 0 attack, physical attacking moves on here, so there's no point in giving it any attack stat, so we take that away. And then, so this one, we're running a toxic subset. So essentially, the other two are the same, Shadow Ball and King Shield. King Shield is its main move, signature move, and then Shadow Ball is just our physical, or our special attack sweeping attack, and just main attacking tool on this Pokemon in general. But Toxic Sub, let's talk about that for 1 second. Substitute is very, very powerful with this Pokemon, because you come in on a resisting attack, and then you substitute. And then if your opponent attacks, it'll do damage to shield form. So a lot of the times they won't even knock out the substitute. So it'll take a few turns, 1 or 2, or they'll have to switch out into a thing that can threaten it, in which case you can Toxic that, and then continue to keep your sub up. You can Toxic it, get out of there as soon as possible, and when you are substitute Toxicing, you don't even leave shield form. You're still in shield form, not going to blade form, so you're huge. You're very natural, very strong natural bulk. This Pokemon, this is, in my opinion, the most favorable way to play this Pokemon, just because it can stay in shield form the most, so it's very safe. And then you have Shadow Ball as an option to dish out good damage. We have invested into special attack. Potentially that could change, but we'll see how it goes on. You may have to move some into defenses, depending on, you know, what threats rise up in the meta. I don't really know that much about Gen 8. I'm doing my due diligence on researching it right now, but that will be to come. So third Aegislash build that we have is a Life Orb special attack or physical attack sweeping set with Swords Dance. This is a pretty interesting one. I don't think it's the optimal way to play him. Like I said, I think Toxic Sub is most likely, or the first one, just being physical, or being very bulky and powerful. But this is a really cool way of doing it. So you get to come in with shield mode and Swords Dance while still in shield mode, getting your attack huge, raise it by 2. And then you just start attacking with big coverage, or big strong moves. Iron Head, Sacred Sword, Shadow Sneak, these both being stab, and then Sacred Sword being able to do big damage to guys like Snorlax, Bisharp, a whole mess of guys. So this guy is very, very interesting with Life Orb, being able to deal a lot of damage. Obviously, in for our stats, we maxed our attack stat adamant nature so that we can just make the most out of our physical attacking moves. We also have max invested into HP and then the leftover into special defense. That part doesn't. The last four, put it wherever you think is needed. But I do think these two should be maxed. And we also have this guy at 6 IV, but you don't need the special attack IV. That could go away. And same with, yeah, that's the only build. This one can also have attack at 0. So these two builds can be 5 IV, but for the first one, you're definitely going to want it to be 6 IV. Next, we have a couple of threats. So first off, we have Bisharp. Bisharp is a pretty scary one, honestly, being Defiant, so you can't even really intimidate it. So if you swap out into like an Arcanine or Hitmontop or something, you won't be able to intimidate him down. Defiant will just be like, yeah, okay. And then, so this guy will just Swords Dance and then hit for Big Foul Play or Knockoff or Sucker Punch. Probably, this could be Knockoff. It probably will be. But actually, you might not be able to get Knockoff in this game. Yeah, you can't. So it's just going to be Foul Play. But Foul Play will do huge, huge damage. I have one of these over here. Bisharp, Knockoff, Life Orb, fully invested, Life Orb, Bisharp, Knockoff will do 94 to 113% of Aegislash's shield move mode. I can't talk. So it'll have pretty close to a 70% chance to OHKO. If they get a low roll, of course, you'll get lucky. But they're probably they have a very high chance of just OHKOing you. So that's one huge threat, is Bisharp. And then our second threat is Mandibuzz. And of course, this will also knock you out, definitely in Blade mode. Then our second one is Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz has huge natural bulk, and Roost also. And we're holding leftovers on this build. It won't always be holding leftovers. But Mandibuzz's main thing is it wants to live on the field for a while, holding or activating Roost every single turn or every other turn, just being big, and never taking damage. It'll toxic a guy, and then Roost is just good. A good Pokemon can wall kill. We have its max HP, max defense, because it has natural special defense bulk pretty well. As you can see, 115 defense here is huge because of this. So this guy is just overall just a very big tank. It's going to be hard to deal with, but our toxic subset can deal with it pretty well, because sub in shield mode, we have a couple of calculations over here. Mandibuzz Foul Play into a Aegislash shield. This Mandibuzz most likely won't be using max invested into attack. It won't be doing a lot of damage. I think we even have it max invested right now. Either way, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to be doing a whole lot. It's never going to kill you. It might not even knock out sub every time. But this Pokemon will be running Taunt a lot of the time. I know I don't have it in this set. It'll probably be that over the U-turn. It would probably be Taunt over U-turn. Mostly to deal with things like toxic subset. Like I said, this is a big wall killer because it is a wall itself, but toxicking is able to do constant damage on opposing walls. So yeah, this is a big problem for either of these strats, anything other than the toxic sub. Toxic sub deals with this pretty well for the most part, but Bisharp will still just slay it like nothing. So a lot of the times you're going to want to run a guy that can stop things like this, because there are going to be more Pokemon in this. Before it was like Landorus, Therian, fully invested into attack, and then Earthquaking deals huge damage to things like Aegislash. But as the meta moves on, we'll see how that goes. But for now, that's going to be it for today. So like and subscribe for more content. If you like this kind of content, let me know. If you want to suggest Pokemon for future competitive builds, go ahead and comment that down in the comment section. But yeah, that's all we got for today. So goodbye.